Good evening, America. And tonight we are on the edge of something that could change your gas prices, your grocery bills, and the lives of American servicemen and women overseas. Iran has just issued a direct military threat to United States forces in the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most critical waterways on the planet. Let's break down exactly what's happening, what it means for you, and why this crisis is far from over. First, where is the Strait of Hormuz, and why should every American care? Picture a narrow bottleneck of water just 21 miles wide at its tightest point, sitting between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula. About 20% of the world's oil passes through this strait every single day. That includes oil that ends up in American gas tanks, heating American homes, and powering American industry. Now imagine that narrow passage is in dispute, controlled, blocked, and mined, in the middle of an active war between the United States and Iran that began back in February. That's where we are tonight. Right now, an estimated 20,000 seafarers on approximately 2,000 ships are stranded in and around the Strait of Hormuz. These are cargo ships, oil tankers, and commercial vessels that cannot safely move. The global supply chain, already fragile, is being squeezed at one of its most vital pressure points. And tonight, that pressure just exploded. It started with a post from President Donald Trump on Truth Social. Here is what he wrote, and we want you to hear every word of this, because the Iranian response that followed came almost immediately. Graphic Truth Social post displayed on screen. President Trump wrote, quote, "For the good of Iran, the Middle East, and the United States, we have told these countries that we will guide their ships safely out of these restricted waterways so that they can freely and ably get on with their business." He then added, and this is the part that turned up the heat, "If in any way this humanitarian process is interfered with, that interference will unfortunately have to be dealt with forcefully." Now let's be clear about what Trump was proposing: the United States military guiding stranded commercial ships through the Strait of Hormuz, a humanitarian mission, he called it. But Iran saw it very differently. Iran's response was swift, unambiguous, and dangerous. The Iranian government released an official statement that read, in part, "We warn that any foreign armed forces, especially the aggressive U.S. military, if they intend to approach or enter the Strait of Hormuz, will be targeted and attacked." Let that sink in for a moment. Iran is not just signaling displeasure. Iran is issuing a military threat, a direct warning that American forces could be fired upon. Then, within the hour, things escalated further. Iranian state media, though we want to be very careful here because Iranian state media has a documented history of false and exaggerated claims, reported that 2 missiles were fired at a United States warship that had attempted to pass through the strait. There are 2 very different accounts coming from within Iran itself. State television claimed that the U.S. warship was simply turned away, that warning shots were fired, and the ship retreated without being struck. But a separate report from the Fars news agency, which is closely affiliated with Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, claimed the warship was hit and was forced to leave the strait. So which is it? Conflicting stories from Iran's own media. But we have a critical piece of clarity from the United States side. U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, the military command responsible for the entire Middle East region, has now put out a statement. And this is the American government's official position. No U.S. Navy ships have been struck. Full stop. CENTCOM says no American vessel has been hit. They add that U.S. forces are currently supporting what they're calling Project Freedom, an operation to escort and guide stranded commercial ships out of the strait, while also enforcing a naval blockade on Iranian ports. So we have Iran saying they fired on U.S. ships. We have the U.S. saying that is false. And in the middle of this information war, 20,000 sailors are still stranded on the water. Now, who has control in the Strait of Hormuz? And what military assets are we actually talking about? President Trump has said publicly and repeatedly that the Iranian Navy is, in his words, at the bottom of the sea. And there is truth to that. American and Israeli strikes have severely degraded Iran's conventional naval capabilities. But here's what Trump's framing leaves out. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, is still very much operational. And the IRGC is the entity that actually runs military operations in the strait. These are not traditional naval forces. They operate fast patrol boats, small, highly maneuverable, and armed with rockets. They have hundreds of anti-ship drones. Open source estimates suggest Iran may have as many as 1,000 such drones remaining. And critically, they have anti-ship ballistic missiles, weapons specifically designed to hit large, slow-moving targets like tankers and warships. The IRGC has also announced that they have planted sea mines throughout the strait. They haven't disclosed how many, but they've offered a deal to commercial shipping. Take the route designated by IRGC forces, ask for permission, and you'll be safe. Deviate from that route, and you're a target. This is economic and military leverage on a global scale. Iran doesn't need to destroy every ship. It just needs to make shipping uncertain enough that the rest of the world feels the pressure. And make no mistake, the world is feeling it. When President Trump said the U.S. military would guide ships safely through the strait, what does that actually look like in practice? We spoke to a retired U.S. Navy captain who commanded 3 warship cruisers, and he gave us a sobering reality check. Cut to expert interviewer read quote. Expert voice. There's a critical distinction here that hasn't been clearly made. CENTCOM has spoken of guided missile destroyers and aircraft being involved, but no one has specifically confirmed that U.S. Navy vessels will physically escort ships through the strait in what we'd call a convoy operation. The difference between guiding and escorting is the difference between night and day. Active escort means sending American warships directly into waters where Iran still has meaningful military control. That comes with significant risk. Onshore, VO. Let's put that risk in concrete terms. The Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, America's most advanced warships, are extraordinary platforms. State-of-the-art radar, missile defense systems, electronic warfare capabilities. They can absolutely operate in contested waters. But can operate and safe are 2 very different things. In a confined waterway like the Strait of Hormuz, with anti-ship ballistic missiles, drone swarms, fast attack boats, and an adversary with nothing left to lose, even the world's most sophisticated destroyers face real danger. The narrow geography of the strait means there is very little room to maneuver. It is a shooting gallery, and Iran has had years to prep it. While military tensions are spiking, there is, simultaneously, a diplomatic process underway. And it's at a standstill. Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson said today that Tehran has submitted a 14-point proposal to end the war. That proposal was sent through Pakistani mediators, one of the few diplomatic back channels still functioning. The U.S. has responded, but no breakthrough has occurred. Here's why talks are stalled. Both sides are holding maximalist positions. Iran wants the war ended before discussing its nuclear program. It wants a 30-day phased withdrawal, a gradual reopening of the Strait of Hormuz paired with a gradual lifting of the U.S. naval blockade on Iranian ports. It wants international guarantees that this conflict won't happen again. And crucially, Iran wants to maintain control of the Strait of Hormuz. Tehran says it is providing security for ships transiting the waterway and therefore has the right to charge transit tolls. The United States sees it very differently. Washington is demanding that the nuclear program be on the table, not deferred. The U.S. is also demanding that Iran relinquish its stranglehold on the strait, and Washington has made clear it will not lift its blockade of Iranian ports until a comprehensive deal is reached. The IRGC put out a statement yesterday that may tell you everything about where Iran's head is at right now. They wrote that President Trump is stuck between, their words, a bad deal or a return to an impossible war. Iran believes it has leverage, and in one very specific sense, and it does. The Strait of Hormuz gives Tehran the ability to hold the global economy hostage. And they know it? Let's bring this home, literally. Since U.S. and Israeli strikes on February 28th, major flows of oil, natural gas, and fertilizer through the strait have been severely disrupted. The United States has also imposed a full naval blockade on Iranian ports, preventing Iran from exporting its oil. This has consequences in both directions. Iran is feeling severe economic pressure. Without oil revenues, the Iranian government is under enormous financial strain. That's exactly what the blockade is designed to do. Squeeze the regime until it agrees to terms. But global energy disruption also has a price, paid in part by American consumers. Higher oil prices mean higher gas prices. Higher gas prices mean higher prices on everything that gets shipped by truck, which is almost everything you buy. Fertilizer disruptions affect food production. An extended uncertainty in global shipping markets increases costs across the entire supply chain. Americans may not be fighting in this war directly, but they are absolutely feeling its economic effects. Meanwhile, the crisis is not contained to the strait. The Israeli military today issued urgent evacuation warnings to residents of 11 towns and villages in southern Lebanon. Israeli strikes killed at least 7 people in southern Lebanon over the weekend. This is happening despite a nominal ceasefire that was supposed to be holding. It is not holding. Hezbollah, Iran's most powerful proxy force, has continued launching drone and rocket attacks on Israeli forces in Lebanon and into northern Israel. Iran has consistently said that the Lebanon ceasefire must hold as a condition of any broader diplomatic progress. But Hezbollah and Israeli forces are still actively fighting. This is the complexity of this conflict. It is not one war. It is a series of interconnected fires. The Strait of Hormuz, the naval blockade, the nuclear question, the Lebanon front, and now tonight, a direct military threat to American sailors. So, where does this go from here? Here's what our team is watching closely. First, will U.S. forces actually attempt a convoy escort through the Strait of Hormuz? If they do, tonight's Iranian threats get put to the test in real time. Second, what happened in those waters tonight? We still don't have independent verification of whether any shots were fired. CENTCOM says no ships were hit. Iran claims otherwise. The truth matters, and we will keep pressing for it. Third, will Pakistan's mediation channel stay open? That back channel is one of the only diplomatic lifelines left in this conflict. If it collapses, the path to any negotiated solution narrows dramatically. Fourth, watch oil prices tomorrow morning. Markets will respond to tonight's developments, and that response will tell you how seriously the financial world is taking this escalation. Fifth, watch Iran's internal politics. The fact that Iran's own state media and IRGC-affiliated media are telling different stories about tonight's alleged missile strike suggests there may be divisions within the Iranian government about how aggressively to escalate. Here's the bottom line tonight. We have a direct Iranian military threat against American forces. We have a disputed incident in the Strait of Hormuz, with the U.S. and Iran telling very different stories. We have 20,000 sailors stranded on the world's most strategically vital waterway. We have stalled diplomacy, a nuclear standoff, and a regional conflict that shows no sign of de-escalating. And we have American servicemen and women who are out there, right now, in those waters. This is not a story happening somewhere else to someone else. The Strait of Hormuz connects to your pump, your grocery store, and your country's credibility on the world stage. We are going to stay on this. Our correspondents are in the region. We have analysts monitoring CENTCOM and State Department communications. We will bring you every verified development the moment we have it. Stay with us. This has been a special report. We'll be right back.